First of all, I just want to say thank you to everybody, our members and guests. How many people here are C9 members? Whoa! How many people here? Okay, you can. How many people here are guests or registered online or something like that? I'm going to call it kind of even, right? So it's fun to have some people that are in C9 and stuff like that at your table. So just if you're not a C9 member, you just want to learn more about it, don't be afraid to ask people at your table. I am not going to be spending a lot of time on stage today. I will introduce you to your moderator. My name is Aaron Eggert. I am the founder and chief vision officer of Coalition9. I'm not going to go into a big story on Coalition9. However, if you don't know what Coalition9 is and you are here, that's fascinating. Two is ask the people at your table on why they're part of Coalition9 and what it's all about. So I won't get into that. I want to bring a couple people up here and just do a quick intro. First, Solomon Holly. So Solomon owns Belay, Ethiopian restaurant. How great is this food? And I say this with a little bit of passion. Like I fell in love with how am I 47 years old and I've never tasted Ethiopian cuisine? That boggles my mind, first of all. And it was amazing, the experience we had at his restaurant, so we went all in on him. And what I love about what we do with Coalition9 is we do things different at events and things like that. And so good luck finding a business-focused event that is going to serve Ethiopian cuisine over lunch, right? And so we like taking some risks, but we also like reinvesting into the community, and that's what it's all about, is making an investment into a catering company and a restaurant like Solomon. So Solomon, just, you're going to love this, dude. 30 seconds to a minute, and that's all I'll make you stay up here for.
Thank you. Let's make it 15 seconds, so I can't really talk. First of all, I'm so excited to share this cuisine with you guys. Ethiopian cuisine is known to be the oldest in the world, you know. And I always say about the injera, I know you all, if you never had it before, I know the sourdough is a little bit unique. But I always think, you know, why did they make this thing? I always talk to myself about this, how they came up with the sourdough. And I always believe at the time they did, the main dish is the sauce. So they realized they had no fork, so they got to come up with that. That is the only thing I can think of. But one thing about the sourdough, it really amplifies the sauce. That's the purpose of the injera. The main dish you should try is the rest of the sauce. So I hope you enjoy that. And Bole, we are in Midway on University Avenue, our first restaurant. Most of you probably heard it on the news. It was burned down during the riot, and then we have to relocate by Midway, by the Como and by Como Zoo. So I really want to say, every chance I get, I want to thank people for bringing us back. We came back because of good people, and I really want to, every time I get this stage, I want to thank human people like you for bringing us back, so thank you.
Solomon has a passion for public speaking. Thank you, dude. Great job. The next person I want to bring up is Abe Damaj. Abe, you, where are you, buddy? There we go. Abe Damaj is a C9er. He also is the owner of Abyssinia Cultural Center, so I'd love to have him come up just to talk a little bit about his vision of this building and then his commitment to this community.
Hi, my name is Abe Damaj. First and most, thank you so much for all of you coming in here today to celebrate this opportunity to have a corporate event right in my corner or in the Lake Street corridor. I just want to give you guys a brief up about what exactly, when I came in 33 years ago, I came as an immigrant to the US. I went to Morris, Minnesota, undergrad school in there. And it's been a kind of an opportunity. What my family, I left from almost 5-7 million people to almost 5,000 in Morris, Minnesota. I don't know if you guys know what that is. So 33 years ago, this place, it used to be a Yukon club run by a woman, and she had a bar downstairs, and upstairs was like 5-bedroom units. So we had our furniture business here in 2007. And from there, we kind of grew up from from a furniture store, from uptown people when they doing the redevelopment project. I call them the Lego affordable housing. So when that was coming out to my neighborhood, they approached me to sell it to them. And I asked them, what do you want to buy it for? And they offered me money that I could not refuse no to it. But I kind of passed it, and I asked them what they planning to do. They said they want to do apartment. And you could come in as a furniture store and could rent from us. No, I said, I'll pass. No big deal. So I just let them pass. And days come by, and I wanted to become doing my own stuff, what they wanted to do. So as I tried it 3 or 4 times, went into my neighborhood bank. They said, Abe, you're not qualified. Keep come back again. So I keep trying it. And 2019, it was a small bank, community resource bank up in Roseville, accepted my application, so we could help you with this, since I was banking with them. And I was just like, it's kind of dream come true. So with that vision, so we were trying to build a 3-story building that we have right now, the Abyssinia Cultural Center. 2019, we started the project around September, October. June 1st of 2020, we supposed to get the key. Unfortunately, we got hit with 2 things. One is pandemic, the other one is the civil unrest, as you guys seen that in the past. So with that, it was just unfortunate to have. They were tearing up the neighborhood, burning the building, and instead we kind of stood by them rather than just avoiding them, because the vision what they have is something. They want representation of the BIPOC communities, however you want to name it. I want to be named American because I took an oath and I came 33 years ago. So I want to be integrated. So that's the way we wanted to have. So with that said, have June 1st did not happen for the unfortunate reason. 37 of our mirrors that you see hit the glasses were gone. They tried to burn it. It was nothing. So with that kind of give my sort of my motivation, how could I become involved rather than being in the outside? So most of the people who actually kind of picked up the rails and picked up all the glasses, debris were from suburban communities. It was astonishing. It was like something dream came true. They brought up their daughter, they brought up their son, clean up our own neighborhood. And some of you guys may be involved on this, and I want to say thank you. What you guys have done, you guys are a hero of mine. And so with that, we were able to build the Abyssinia culture just reborn in 2020. Right now, we're hosting about 35 incubators, people who has been displaced of the civil unrest. They're here in our community in the 2nd floor, and they're supporting us because they did not have no place to go. So we brought them in, and the vision just changed from a furniture store. How could we bring these people integrated? So we got them here, 35 offices, did not have any money at that time. I almost ran out, and I just went take home equity loan, took my 401k. It was a lot of crazy stuff that happened. But and then the 1st floor right now, we have a clinic, a community clinic. It's called Prime Med. They're operating out of our 1st floor. We have a coffee shop. We have a mental health. We have a barber shop and a gift shop. So things are coming together, and this is our first event through the C9, and I got to introduce to Aaron. So all I want to say to you guys is thank you so much, and I want you guys to think that more of like a future, because if you live in this city, leave your politics, whether Democrat or Republican, just become Minnesotans. So and I want you to think that supporting us, not religion beliefs, we all one people. We're gonna go on as one person when we die. So think of us together, like let's support how we supported through the debris. This is your neighborhood. This is part of you. When you say to another person, where are you from? You cannot say that I'm from Wayzata. You're from Minnesota. I'm going to break it down for you. You're from Minnesota, so you're part of this, and I want you guys to support any event or anything that you do to this place. You bring it back, the community back again, and we want to thank you so much.
Thank you, Ed. A few other people I want to thank. I want to thank all of our community supporters. So, Alliance, Bauer Design Build. Go ahead and raise your hands when I say your company name. Beyond Design, Entrebank, Fluid Interiors, Modern Foundation, Boulay, Kaisa Wealth Strategies, EOS, Justin Cox, Mason Jar Marketing, Sales Homie, Security Bank and Trust, and Seiler Law. And then Insperity, Madeira Partners, Tradition Capital Bank, United Healthcare, USI, and Verseek. If you see people with a community supporter on their badge, just give them a quick thank you. I mean, a big part of what we're able to do with these events and things like that we put on, reinvesting into the community, comes from the dollars that they support through the sponsorship. So just give them a quick thank you if you see them in line or something like that. All right, we need to get this party started. All right, I also want to thank our event supporters. So Accountnuity, so Heidi's going to be on the panel, so thank you very much. Heidi and Becky are here, and Chad, right? Thank you, buddy. EOS, Justin Cox also wanted to support this event too, because of the topic, obviously, right? We also have Pinnacle Business Guides, so Greg Cleary, the owner, is here. He's a Minnesotan, so based out of Savage, so if you want to learn a little bit more about it from him or his people, he's here. And then, last but certainly not least, Heather Willems and Nung are here to do some graphic recording, visual storytelling. We already started on the line there of how do you make your vision a reality. Keep an eye on what she's got going on here. It's going to blow your mind. She's going to visually record everything that's going on. I've seen it multiple times. I've known her for a few years now. It's epic. So it's hard to keep your eyes between what's going on in the panel and what she's got going on. And then lastly, I want to thank Brian for being our moderator. Brian Adamek, I screw his name up every time except for this time. And he's going to be your moderator today. I'm done until the end. So Brian, I'm going to have you introduce yourself and then introduce our panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. I can introduce myself. I am Brian Adamek. I'm the founder of eWealth Partners. What we do, we're a financial planning wealth management firm. We target business owners and key executives of privately held, closely held businesses, with our niche kind of being in the manufacturing and construction space. And I was talking to Scott a couple months ago, and then Aaron, and he told me that they're putting on this event, and we've been a long-time community supporter, but I was like, I have to support this event because vision to reality is exactly what we do in the financial planning space. We take our clients' most compelling 10-year vision, and then we break that down into action items and metrics and implementation of what we do today to get to that 10-year vision. And so in a lot of ways, I think our clients would say that we kind of play the role of facilitator, a facilitator of the conversation of what that 10-year vision looks like, and we break that down to a 3-year and a 1-year. And then they hire us to really take that role to be that finance seat. So in our ways, we're in that personal finance seats because they want to do what they do best within their role at work as a business owner and having fun with their family and whatnot. And so we've been running on an operating system for probably the last 4 years, and I can't believe that I haven't always been running on an operating system over this last 14 years. And so I was like, I have to moderate. I'd love to moderate this, and so now I'm going to bring up the panelists here, and it's quite impressive, and I think we're going to learn a lot, and I'm pretty biased, but I think this will be the best event you've ever attended. So with that said, all right, how's my mic doing? Is this getting too quiet, or is this okay? All right, that's good. All right, and that's kind of like a big thing for me, that if the audio or my mic is too low, like somebody scream at me, or if we have questions in the audience, like just wait until I come bring the mic over, okay? Because I'm going to deliver a heck of an experience. So, Heidi, I'm going to bring you up first. So, Heidi Oslin, inspired by her love of small business and drive to serve, Heidi has spent the last 20 years building an unrivaled method to take her clients from financial chaos to business clarity and beyond. Her firm, Accountnuity, was founded as All-in-One Accounting in 2004, and what began as a simple idea to help small businesses outsource knowledgeable accounting professionals on an as-needed basis has grown Accountnuity into a very successful small business partner, providing general accounting, bookkeeping, controller, and CFO needs to thousands of clients. And as founder and CEO, Heidi has mastered the art of financial connections. Her passionate pursuit of long-term relationships drives the customized, hands-on implementation planning she is known for and clients rely on. So let's welcome Heidi. All right, up next, Nathan Young. Nathan Young, and this is like the football coach in me coming out, coached football for 10 years. Nathan Young is a founder and author of How to Be Second, which is a book, and now is an organization. Nathan's a good friend of mine, so I've seen this evolve, so it's really cool. And it champions and supports seconds, an identity, not a role. His specialty is being a second in command, which he's done both full-time and fractional in multiple organizations, and most of his work has focused on installing or modifying these systems. That's why we brought him up here. He also currently serves as COO for Tuckpoint Advisory Group for C9er and CEO Jen Swanson, also part of my group. I love Jen. Which focus on op model design, installation, and transformation, especially to a product-led model. Basically, Nathan lives and breathes operating models and being a proud second. Let's hear it for Nathan. Next, we have Scott Gullickson. Scott Gullickson is a business coach, facilitator, and founder of Pinnacle Coaching. His passion is making a positive impact in the lives of entrepreneurs to help them get more of what they want. He is a certified The 6 Types of Working Genius trainer and has received his certification from Leadership Strategies as an effective facilitator. He's also a proud facilitator of a C9 group, and Scott's favorite thing about working with businesses is creating clarity with where they want to take their company and putting together a tailored roadmap with how they will get there. Scott and his wife, Alyssa, live in Glenwood with their 9-year-old twins, and he enjoys hunting, alpine skiing, golfing, lifting weights, running, reading, and traveling with his family. All right, let's hear it for Scott. And last we have Chris Heim. Chris Heim is a servant-minded leader, guided by a passion for helping people achieve excellence in business, community, and personal pursuits. Chris has served as a CEO for 3 companies of 35 million to 100 million revenues, is a board director for a mid-market company, and the mayor for the city of Medicine Lake. He is known for building high-performance teams, scaling business operation, and innovating fresh solutions. His people-first leadership style is centered on helping others celebrate the best version of themselves every day as they simultaneously create remarkable outcomes for the organizations they serve. And outside of his executive leadership positions, he is a mentor for software entrepreneurs through Mesa and a retired 20-year volunteer firefighter. Let's hear it for Chris. All right. Okay, this first question is going to be more of like, let's hear the story of operating systems. So we're going to open it up more from the perspective, I'm going to say from the visionaries. We're calling the visionaries Heidi and Chris, right? And I think you kind of understand from the introductions. Nathan plays well in that kind of COO role. That's why he's up here. In my opinion, that's why he's up here. And Scott Gullickson as a business coach and facilitator. So hopefully this dynamic group can really bring it together. But let's start it out. Let's start with Heidi, but I'm going to ask all you guys this question. How did you know when your organization was ready for a business operating system? Do you remember that like triggering event for the organization? Heidi.
Yeah, I certainly do. I remember it vividly. So I started All-in-One Accounting out of my basement 20 years ago, and I think it's important to understand the why behind my starting the company. So I'd seen a need in the market, entrepreneurs and nonprofits, their internal accounting, as I was doing tax and audit work, I saw entrepreneurs and nonprofits really struggling to get their internal accounting done. And I saw that it was really crushing their entrepreneurial spirits. And I love entrepreneurs. I think they are innovative. I think they make the world go round. I think that they really spark this economy. So I have a very passionate spirit for entrepreneurs. So I saw that this was happening, so I thought, I can solve this. So I started this business out of my basement. Going great the first few years. I'm servicing these clients. I'm growing kind of steadily. Fast forward about 7 years, and I had reached this point where I was probably 10, 12 employees. But things started to kind of go off the rails, and I started to really struggle. And when you're at that point, when you're small, you can kind of handle all the things, right? You can handle HR, insurance, technology, IT, all of the things, because it's small enough where you can kind of fake it, because you can kind of do the things. But you get to this point, and it's this point in your business where things start to go bad, and you're thinking, this isn't going well anymore, and you start putting out fires. So you're taking 1 step forward and 2 steps back, 1 step forward and 2 steps back. And I started to realize that I wasn't setting my team up for success, and I wasn't setting myself up for success, and I wasn't setting my clients up for success. And that spirit, that entrepreneurial spirit in me started to lose my passion. And so the reason that I had started my business, I started to see that in myself. Like I started to not, I wasn't having fun anymore. And so I'd heard about this book, Traction, and I read it. I was going to a board meeting, I was on an airplane, and this is when I could read. I also had 3 small kids, running this business, working all the time, doing all the things. And I read this book, Traction, and I thought, this is it. If I do this in my business, if I can structure things, if I can hire the right people and put them in the right seats, this is how I can actually break through this ceiling. This is how I can do this. And it was like this light bulb moment in my business where I'm like, this is how I can break through this. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Chris, what about you? What was the triggering event? Like, hey, we need to start running on some type of system.
Yeah, so my triggering, first of all, hey everybody, I'm so happy to be here. My triggering event was I finally landed my CEO opportunity. I was leading a division of a business. We spun it off to private equity, and the next day I woke up and I'm appointed a CEO. And as crazy as it sounds, I never once actually thought about who am I as a CEO until that first day that I was in that chair. And I just really started contemplating, we had about 150 employees, contemplating, okay, who am I as a leader, and what's the drumbeat of the company going to be, and how do I know that decisions are being made in meetings that I can't be at, that I agree with those decisions? How do I put initiatives across the entire organization, have 20, 30 projects going on at the same time? How do I keep track of this? And really more importantly, I'm a servant leader at heart, and I believe in that. And I wanted to figure out, like, how do we shape the culture so that that it's a culture I'm proud of, and how do I help middle managers on their journey? Like, me 20 years ago, how do I do a better job of helping the leaders in my organization accelerate their learning, and we can have common outcomes. And it was, Traction was really my start as well. And first of all, once we adopted Traction, I no longer had to think about that. It was like we had a common language and we had a common drumbeat, and I could just spend more of my time figuring out who I was as a leader and helping the team, like really focusing on the culture and the strategy. And I really just consider an operating system kind of like the drumbeat of a great song. It's in the background and you hear it, and it guides you down a path. It gives you a rhythm so that you can focus on the other parts of the song, the orchestra of the company.
I love the drumbeat of the song, the rhythm. Nathan, what would you add for your triggering event? And it goes way back to when you were just a little guy.
Yeah, hi, I'm Nathan Young. And so let me give just a smidge of context about my work history. I grew up in a family business, right? My parents already had a business with furniture and appliance retail, like new and used. And they had that before I was born. So if you've ever grown up in family business or been around family business, you know there's no such thing as like not working. So when I was 8 years old, I started 20 hours a week in the business. And also, conveniently, I was homeschooled. It's almost like they did it on purpose. And so I got to work, it was focused work. Like I was on site, on location, I was doing deliveries and whatever with other people, thankfully, I couldn't drive. I remember I was at a person's house, we were replacing their washer and dryer. I was 9 years old. Let's not talk about the fact that I was on a delivery with a grown person in another person's house. Like, I look back on this now and I'm like, what was happening? And we didn't have the tools that we needed, and we didn't have like a connector piece. And I remember being like, why is that? And I asked, Terry was the guy's name that I was with. He was like 40 something. I was like, Terry, do we have a list of all the tools? Because I don't have a list, but I'm 9. And we did not have a list. We didn't have a list of the tools. We didn't have a list of the connecting pieces that we had. We didn't really have a list of anything. And so at 9, I was like, you know what we should have? We should have a list. And so I started making lists. I published our first employee manual when I was 12. And so like this idea, I think this idea of operating systems all the way up to now I'm learning about operating models in my work with Jen. And at the most fundamental level, right? Because we just have some of this language now. It's agreements with each other to keep us in alignment. Like much like Heidi was saying, like we didn't have those agreements, formalized maybe agreements. Often formalization is writing it down so you can all see it together. And so like my first experience with that was I was 9 and I went, where's the list? And it's been basically that way ever since, formalizing agreements. And I'm so excited that we have some of these tools now that like are lists of agreements that we need to make. And so anyway, that was my experience with it.
That is quite the experience. I have an 8-year-old, so it's not too much to ask, 15, 20 hours a week of work from her, is it? I have to start homeschooling her, which we'll do. No. All right, Scott, take us home. Let's hear from your perspective.
But I just thought I have 9-year-old twins, so that's like a full-time employee right there. Okay. Perfect. So mine actually comes back to about 6 years ago. Starts with my wife. That's what really got me into all this. My wife was in her business, bought in, became partner, and once she became partner, she was running a dental clinic, and there was 12 women, and she had 2 male partners, and they all the female staff looked to her for absolutely everything. She went from being just the clinician of doing the technical dentistry every day to leading a business to managing people, running a business. It was extremely overwhelming, and she was just absolutely miserable. Something she'd been dreaming of for 8 years, getting out of school, all of a sudden came true, and she was miserable. And I knew that was not right. Like there had to be a better way to be doing this. She was not the first person to all of a sudden go start running a business on her own. And the reason it was miserable for her is because there was no structure. We talked about like all these checklists. There was no checklist. There was no values. There was no direction where they were going. So people would come to her with problems left and right. And she did not know the clear direction that she could give to them. And for her, that was just, her type A self, that was very challenging for her. And so ultimately what I decided is that I don't like seeing my wife miserable every night and not enjoying what she put so many years and dollars into to get. So I came across a book. Anyone wants to guess? It's sitting right behind Brian. It's been mentioned a couple times earlier. So came across Traction, came across E-Myth, read both of those, and just fell in love with the idea of that framework or an operating system. And I look at the system, I simplify things, but a system is how you do what. So it's how you run a business. So again, it wasn't reinventing the wheel. I don't think that's necessary. It's just taking different parts of what's already out there and rolling them out to make it work for her. So that's what I got to start doing with her company. And then I didn't get paid, but it started going on afterwards and working with more and more organizations. So for me, that's my story of how I got into getting to help out so many small business owners.
That makes sense, and keep rolling with this. So when considering an operating system to implement, because there's many out there, what do we need to consider?
think there's two really main triggers that jump out at me as far as what to consider. So there's many operating systems. All of them are great. I like to, and I've shared this many times, I think 80% of them are probably the same. Pick it up, put a different color on it, replace it. And with that being said, the two pieces that really jump out to me, the first one is that you have to be able to meet you with where you're at today. There's, Heidi, your company is 140 people, and you said when you started off you were 14. What got you to where you were 14 wasn't going to get you to 140. So instead of just coming in as a model of, hey, we have to redo everything, it's let's take a look and say, where are you sitting at today? What are your current needs? And let's put the right tools in place to make sure that we're getting you from where you are to where you want to get. Then you're going to get there, and then you have to level up again and get to the next area. So the one piece is really about making sure that you're meeting yourself with where you're at when picking that operating system. And then the second one comes down to just the flexibility, making sure that you're able to take whatever system you're going to use, coach you're using, implement whatever it is, and then actually having it mold and fit into your company. Every company is different, whether you're at a different state, whether a different maturity level, whether you've got different leadership levels. So making sure that you are making adjustments and being flexible for where you're at today. So flexibility, and then also meeting with where you're at today. Those are my two big ahas.
Nathan, I know you know like 100 different systems out there, but what do you think? What do we need to consider when selecting an operating system to implement?
Well, I'm going to say two things. So the first one is, who's going to run it?
Speaking like a true second.
The most common thing that I've seen fall down is that any of these systems are effectively systems of agreements, right? They're gatherings of agreements together. Like, I love the VTO, but I also love Pinnacle, and I also love, like, Business Made Simple. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that, Donald Miller and StoryBrand stuff, right? And, like, they're systems of agreements. Well, then you have to hold the agreements, right? Because if you and I agree, then we're in alignment. And then if I decide not to anymore, then the process on paper does not hold me to continuing to agree. The us holds me to continuing to agree. And so the first thing is, who is going to help you hold the agreements with the whole group of people? Saying it is does not make it so. Keeping it that way is the first consideration. And the second one is, like, I think Scott said it beautifully, and I felt like I saw Chris nodding along, and I couldn't see Heidi, but I'm sure she was also, I trust in Heidi's wisdom, and that is, you will have to evolve those agreements. The people that you're working with will change, the way that you're working will change, the people that you're serving will change, and so constantly making sure that the agreements that you have are the ones you need now and to get where you're going, you will need to iterate on those things. So those would be the two.
That's a good transition to the next question. Is going to hit on that, where you're going. And so, Chris, let me start with you. Talk through your business operating system of choice. Why does it work, and how has it impacted your business? And then maybe we can hear a little bit of how that evolution of the operating system has evolved. So,
So Traction is the system that I started with, but I want to share the story that they were both Scott and Nathan were saying. It's really not about the specific operating system. Greg's in the office. Pinnacle is amazing. It's about the philosophy of having a system. And what we talked about in our prep is, let's not kid ourselves. If you aren't following an operating system, you do have an operating system. It's called making it up. And that was where I was at. And so a couple of my key messages is just find one, figure out, like I had to figure out who you are as a leader, what you're looking for, and you'll find the answer. But I guess more importantly than that, we all go to college, we learn how to run a business. There's the technical parts of running a company, I think it's well covered. There's lots of books. The human side of running a business is not as well covered, and we're not as well trained on that. And that is the part that I think we're more prone to just kind of make it up as we're elevated to different leadership roles. and to really reflect on who are we as a leadership group, who are we as a human operating system, and how can we incorporate that? Like, how do you help somebody run a really good weekly team meeting that's issues focused? How do you have a really good one-on-one lunch meeting to like really connect with the human side of your employee? You know, this idea of right person, right seat. How do you make sure across your org chart that you have all the right people and all the right roles? Those are less, at least for me, those were things that I think in my soul, I felt it, but I didn't know how to implement it. And I certainly didn't know how to teach others. And so adopting an operating system not only gave us the drumbeat of the business, it really helped me go deeper into the human side of the business without having to make that part up. Because that's the most important part of your business are your people. And shame on us if we're making that part up, is really where I was at.
Tell me just a little bit more. Like, how did you even know how to make it up?
How did I know?
Like, on the people side of it, like, how was that so obvious?
Well, I guess, you know, just going through, like, corporate values, very important. We're probably, most companies are guilty of, you go through this great exercise and you hang them on a poster. How do you actually, you know, hire, fire, retain, promote around that? You should have a tool for that. You know, putting together quarterly plans that look across the whole organization, and how do you keep, you know, 150 employees aligned around 3 or 4 key priorities? How do you do that? There's a tool for that. How do you state to the private equity firm that just acquired you, here's where we're going in 3 years. Trust me, we are going, this is the path we're going. There's a tool for that. Those are you shouldn't make those things up. You know, it's hard enough to run a business. Why figure out, like, what's the format that I'm going to follow? I guess maybe just to finish my statement, regardless of what you call it, I call it Traction Plus. My mindset is I want to have a base framework. It's kind of like having an offense in high school of any sport. It's different, but it's the same in college. It's the same offense. You're just adding to it. You're adding flavoring to it. So I'm in search of finding tools from really smart people that have basically frameworks that I can follow. And so Traction Plus is my mindset. I'm running a core system, and I'm constantly looking for the right tool that I can incorporate into the business so that I'm running my business. I'm not running business the way Attraction says I should. Yeah. I'm using it as a framework, and then I'm letting it evolve into what I want our company to be.
Yeah, let me, Heidi, what would you have to add? What the operating system of choice, how it's impacted your business, and just the evolution?
Yeah, I'm going to play off what you were talking about. I was thinking about this last night. When I started my business, I think when any entrepreneur does, they're very focused on their product or their service, right? So we're focused on bringing our product or service to our clients. And that changes over time to a team approach, because in order to bring more of that to the market, you actually have to encourage and promote and get your team rowing in the same direction. And you're exactly right. And how do you do that? You create process, you create systems. Most entrepreneurs, most visionaries that I know don't know how to do that. I certainly didn't know how to do that. So I needed to hire the right people, put them in the right seats to help me do that so I could get more team members to get my product and service to impact more entrepreneurs and nonprofits. So Traction for me, 6 key components: data, people, process, traction, issues, and vision. You get those 6 key components, you get them all working, and then it's this 90-day world that we live in where we're resetting priorities every 90 days. Using the tools applied consistently over time, a 1-year plan, a 3-year plan, a 10-year plan, and getting everyone on your team on board. It's so amazing if you really follow the program that it works. And you're really, really true to your values. Like you said, you hire, review, promote, and fire to your values. I can tell you that when we really started doing that in the business, it was a complete game changer. And we didn't do that right away in the business. Like we said, we had these values, yes, we did, but were we really true to them? Not for a while. And we continued to have problems with our team. We continued to have problems with our clients. And we were scratching our head like, what is happening? Well, when we really started to talk with every prospect first conversation through the whole process about our core values, and we started to actually hire, review, promote, and fire to those, everything changed. And really hiring to, is your mission and vision of your why in alignment with the why of the company? That makes a difference too. Do you really love small business? Are you passionate about serving nonprofits? Then this is the place for you. If you're not, this probably isn't going to work out. So just having the right people on your team and the right seats makes all the difference.
Yeah, well said. Right people, right seats. And I love how you said the vision and then breaking it down to 90 days.
Yeah.
It just feels like we can handle that if we break that down just 90 days. So we've talked about kind of just the evolution of the operating system. And so therefore we have to get the second opinion, like who needs to be in the room when they say we need to evolve the system. So Nathan, I want to get your take, and Scott, I actually want you to follow up from your role as a facilitator. So who needs to be in the room when we decide to modify the system?
Oh man, that feels like a bomb. I have a couple answers, because I'm a person who answers things very literally and I like nuance. So I'm like, well, yes, and, right? Stuff can be two things can be true, all of that. Also, Chris, I love that you keep referring to drumming, because I am a drummer. And so this idea that you can at the end of the day, you can return to something tried and true, right? Like you're always trying to find home, and then there's lots of flourishes and accents and things that we can do, but 4/4, eighths on the hats, halves on the snare is gonna get you there. And so when you who needs to be in the room when you need to adjust something like that? Right, when you're like, hey, this is pretty good. It doesn't feel like we're quite hitting the tone that we're looking for. Oh, we've made all these songs. They're in standard 4/4. I don't know if anybody knows what I'm talking about. But yeah, just a normal pop song. How do we elevate that to where we are now, or this type of song we want to write, or whatever? Often the person who needs to be in that room in my experience, you really need a very, very few people. And it depends on the conversation. So I want to be careful to just answer that whole hog, right? When you're saying, this is where we're going, and this is the vision, or this is keep that as tight as possible. Often, first in command, second in command, maybe if you have a really great leadership team, maybe. But a camel is a horse built by committee, right? So, we're here to build horses. They move fast. When you get down into more systems things, what's our proven process? How do we get things from customer conversation all the way through to getting paid, and then create that loop where we're having a continuation of that? How do we do the 20% that drives the 80%? When you're having those conversations, you need to bring the team in, because it's agreements. So you need to bring everybody in who's about to live by an agreement to make the agreement. Because if they build it, they own it, right? So I'm just repeating phrases now, but they feel legit to me. So I would answer that way.
I like that. They build it, then they own it. Scott, so you facilitate a lot of these conversations with the first in command, the visionary. What have you seen who needs to be in the room if we're gonna, not only just get it up and running, but then when we also need to make modifications?
To add on top of what Nathan said, I don't remember all the drumisms, because I'm not a drummer, but a big part of that is, what are you trying to accomplish at this time? So if it's initial conversation of, hey, we're looking at bringing in somebody to help us move the needle forward, it really starts off a one-on-one, from my perspective, with the CEO, owner, founder, partners, whatever it is, on do they truly understand where they're sitting at in their company today? Are they out in left field and thinking that, hey, things are great and going really, really well? Or do they know that we've got a lot of issues that are going on? Because until they really are able to identify, this is where we're at today, it's damn near impossible to figure out what is the right direction or strategy for them to go. So starting off always would be, my perspective is with the owner, partners, and then from there, as you start actually running on any operating system, starting off with the leadership team. And again, if I use that a little broadly, because if you are a 6-person company, bring all 6 people on. If there's somebody who you don't think is going to be there in 3 months, don't bring them in. Don't have uncomfortable conversations if they're not 100% necessary, because you already know for a fact that person's going to be gone. But on the other end is if you're a leadership team, let's just say you're 30, 40 people in a company, then what I really like to see is making sure you have the right people on the bus to begin with. So that is making sure that, to use terminology of the accountability chart, org chart on steroids is a good way to look at it, but making sure you've got all of your key areas represented, from your marketing, from your sales, to your operations, to your support. If you've got all different areas covered, right, then you can truly get full buy-in and you get full representation from everybody, from every department. So then you're not just completely missing out on sales. Oh, sales isn't important right now. Of course they are, the lifeblood of the organization. So if the sales areas does not believe that they can deliver on that, they're not getting the chance to step up and say, hey, that's unrealistic. Like, what are we going to do? What does our budget look like? So that's my perspective of starting with the owners, and then as you're moving forward, depending upon the organization size, it's always going to differ a little bit from my perspective, but making sure that you're bringing the true leaders and you've got full representation from all departments of your business.
Okay, so now moving on, that we've made a decision that we're going to run this operating system, right? And now in the world we call it do we self-implement? Do we run the show? Are we running the system? Or do we hire a business coach, consultant, implementer, facilitator, whatever we want to call it? Like, how do we decide that? Scott, you start with this one.
Okay. I like to look at it this way. It's fast is better than free. All right, I can go change a tire. I can change oil in my car. I have even tried to rip apart my furnace and get the igniter going by sticking my hand in there. That was not smart. So with all of that, I was able to do those things myself by reading a book, by watching a YouTube video. It took a long time, and it ended up costing in the long run because I didn't get the full value from doing it as well. So there's one way to look at it, is that you're able to do all these things on your own. Of course, you can pick up books, there's videos you can be watching. So it's not that you can't do it, but those books and videos, what they don't have are going to be like a lot of implementers, coaches, and guides in the room. They have years and years and years and days and days and days of experience working with other companies who have gone through the same issues that you're going through right now. So if you're considering self-implementing, again, completely okay to be doing something like that. There's, I bet, companies who have grown tremendously out of the gates who have self-implemented. And then when it's right to take a look at bringing someone else in to the company to help bring them forward is when you're no longer getting what you want. I think that's the strictest way I can take a look at it, is if you know that there's a ceiling you've hit, there's pain that you're going through right now, and you're not able to move forward without someone else's perspective, that's when it's time, because the job of any good coach facilitator is not to come in and be a yes man or woman. They're to come in, have difficult conversations, question you, ask why that way, ask if you want to get here, okay, what conditions need to be true. So there's a lot of really challenging questions that are going to be asked from an outsider, right? No matter who it is, versus the CEO, the owner of a company. So Chris, I don't know when you were CEO, whenever you brought somebody in, but I always look at the clients I'm working with, they say, it's like they'll speak to you in ways they won't speak to me. Well, yeah, because I can't fire them at the end of the day. Like, if they piss me off, that's okay. I'm unbiased when I'm in the room. It's not about what's on my agenda. It's about what's best for the company at that point in time.
Yeah, let's get all the panelists' perspective. Chris, why don't you start?
Yeah, so I always have an implementer. I've been using operating systems for almost 10 years. And we've gone way beyond the graduation. And I choose to have an implementer because I want to be a seat at the table with my team. I don't want to be running the meeting. I'm just one person filling a chair. We're a team trying to run a company. And it's such a special time, your quarterly meetings and your annual planning. I want to pull myself out of that leadership role and just be there with my team. And to Scott's point, I want it to be okay. Like, stuff needs to come up. Hard topics need to be brought up. And I don't want any concerns about what can be said and not said. And a great implementer will draw that out of your meeting. And it's not cheap, but it's one of the best investments that I feel you can make in your company. And I also will say that true team bonding forms when you're all there as equals, sitting at the table, and you have somebody else running. Like, it brings on a different team dynamic. And just a few times per year, I just long for that day where I can just be part of the team, roll up the sleeves, and we get stuff done.
I'm going to add one thing real quick, is on top of what Chris said, is you can't fully participate and facilitate. Like, they're two different things, and they're two different skill sets. Sure. So I just wanted to highlight, because that's a really important piece that you called out.
That's a good point. Heidi, you go next on your experience, and we'll let you close this.
So I did, after I read the traction book, I did self-implement just myself, self-implemented. Terrible idea. Wouldn't recommend it to anybody. In terms of an implementer, I would never run any company without one, because as Chris said, there is so much value there. And when you're growing a company really quickly, I tell my leadership team this all the time, you're gonna have a brand new job every 12 to 18 months. You're gonna have a brand new company. And so that implementation day, that quarterly, and that implementer is gonna help you break through those ceilings every time you're with them. And like Chris said, we're all equals then. We're all leadership team. We're all working together. And that reset is so important, because the other 90 days of that quarter, we are running hard. We are doing work, we are solving problems, and we are working with our teams. And so that reset and that outside perspective, and they're calling us on our shit too, right? They're not gonna let us get away with anything. And I don't want to get away with anything. I want them to help us be better. They are gonna help us be better for our teams. And that's what I want. I want to be better. I want to bring more to our teams. I want to grow the company. I want to serve our clients better. And they help us do that. And I'm so thankful. Our implementers are great. So I'm really appreciative to them.
Calling us on our shit sounds like a perfect thing that Nathan does well. So Nathan, close it down.
If you're going to have a financial conversation with your partner, do you want to have that where you're teaching them, or do you want to have a financial planner in the room where you're both agreeing with what they're saying or disagreeing together with what they're saying? You want to have a planner in the room, right? Because on this side of the table, you get to say, that's shit, we don't like it, and you can leave. But if you're the person doing that to your partner, it's weird, right? Like, that's when things get weird. No conversation is harder than a financial conversation, right? Business is only financial conversations with your whole team all the time. And I've been on all three sides of this. I've hired coaches to help me implement a system. I've been the person self-implementing a system. And I've been the person running a system with an implementer, right? Where they were on that side of the table and I was on this. I've been in all three places. I will never go back to not having a coach or consultant with me ever again, right? Like, and I've seen it the whole scale, solo, all the way up to my work with Jen, where we're in Fortune 1000 companies, and like they're having the exact same. It's a human experience.
This is a great transition where actually I would love to highlight all of the business coaches, facilitators, implementers in the room. So quickly, just actually stand up just so we can see who you are in the group. I'm going to make you do a little exercise. You know, I know we have different representation and we have different sponsors here, but just so we can see who does that type of work. Because now we're going to lead into the breakout sessions. And so there is questions on your table. And if you are a facilitator or coach, maybe I'm going to ask you to kind of help lead this. You didn't know you had to do that. But we have about 20 minutes. And so I know we want to go and like get to know each other. Like, I'm not telling you not to do that, but like answer the questions. And if you have any great questions that we can ask the panelists, then we'll bring it back and close it down. So find the questions on your table and then we'll bring it back in about 20 minutes or so. All right, we got 10 minutes left, but what I want to do is if there was, from your group discussions, any burning question that we have for the panelists, or just any kind of cool insight that was shared from your group, please, I need 2 questions. Who wants to ask the first question or feedback or commentary? Who is it? Who wants to, do you have a question? Okay.
Scott helped, but I'll ask it again for the benefit of the group.
1 second, no more talking. You guys in the back. Yes, thank you. Sorry, I had to do that. No disrespect there. All right, here we go.
All right. So my question was, so I know I'm a visionary. I've done operating systems before, but I have 2 employees, myself included, and then 2 fractionals. So I was curious about how do you implement an operating system when you have fractionals that maybe operate how they like to operate because they're not employees?
That's a great question, Whitney. So how do we run an operating system when we have fractional employees? Who wants to try to address that? Scott?
I'll repeat the same answer that I gave before for everyone else. So with what I told Whitney, is it really comes down to setting clear expectations for what are they accountable for. So look at your accountability chart, look at your org chart on steroids, whatever you're calling it, and then making sure that where that person's name is, right? Because you brought them on for a specific reason. So what are those roles and accountabilities that are there? That's really step 1, is making sure that you've identified exactly what those are. Step 2 is making sure that you're very clear with what expectations are, AKA when are they winning? So making sure that those key results have been clearly identified, not just, oh, this is what I have in the job description. Job descriptions are great, they're 45 bullet points, and there's only about 5 of those things that account for roughly 80% of what they do. So set clear expectations, and then the third piece is, once those expectations have been agreed upon, is the last part, is making sure that you're checking in on those on at least a monthly basis so they can know, hey, here's the 3 or 4 things that they were supposed to be doing. Are they doing them? Are they delivering at the level you're hoping that they are? And if you're not, that's a good leadership opportunity for you to step in and find out from them what their thoughts are on how they're doing, and then what ideas they have for bringing forward a solution versus just the problem of, oh, I'm not able to do X, Y, Z.
That's a great answer, Scott. So it sounds like you helped others with that question before. So let's ask one more, maybe 2 more questions. So, all right, Heidi, I'm coming over.
So we talked a lot in our group that one of our pain points is the IDS process, identify, I can't remember what the rest of it, solve, discuss and solve. And that a lot of part of that is we're not actually identifying the right problems to solve because there's maybe a vulnerability or a trust issue with the leadership team to really bring the right things to the surface. Can you kind of talk about that issues just kind of spread out and don't get resolved because there's maybe a dynamic or something missing from an alignment standpoint or ability to be vulnerable standpoint?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Thank you, Heidi. Yes, Heidi.
And this is with your leadership team? Yeah. Okay. So I would talk about first team first, and really the first thing I would work on is the trust of your leadership team. We really work on having trust builders. We really work on making sure that that trust is really deep with our leadership team. And a lot of times we'll say, what is the real issue? Like, really unpack. Like, we're talking about symptoms, but really let's go deep. What's the real issue? And really your willingness to be vulnerable is the speed of vulnerability is the speed of your breakthrough, right? So you have to be willing to be vulnerable with each other and really put it out there and be raw. Like, say it and make it hurt. That's what they would say, right?
What, Chris?
Yeah, I can add to what Heidi is saying. We spend a lot of time in our company talking about this, and I have a couple thoughts for you. One is, I like to say that we need to have a mindset of celebrate people, attack issues. And there's a way that you can bring forward issues that is very condescending and accusational, and it brings up, like we put our defense guards up immediately. There's a style that you can adopt as a culture of, I can celebrate the person and separate them from the fact that businesses are always going to have issues. And how do you talk about the issue without making it personal? How do you talk about it without it feeling like an attack on the person? So that's become part of kind of my cultural mantra, is how do we get good at solving issues in a way that even the person that's working on it doesn't feel attacked, because then they can jump in and help solve it. And if you can figure that out, then you don't have to worry about being overly vulnerable. It's still vulnerable, but you're not being attacked. The other is I encourage everybody, if we're having a 90-minute meeting, if you're not spending the 30 minutes before that preparing and coming prepared, thinking about the issues, and you're wasting our time, and then you're just not part of that team. And I'm pretty strict on that, because if the whole point of this is to solve issues, but if the only person bringing up the issues is the leader, you're wasting time. And so those would be two key cultural things, and it's very Minnesota nice to not want to do those. So help your team figure out how to talk about issues in a way that it's okay to talk about them. Celebrate people, attack issues.
Celebrate people, attack issues. And what you said going into that weekly meeting of actually what issue you're going to bring, that kind of calls me out a little bit more of like on the spot in that weekly meeting. So I love that. Nathan, what do you have to add?
All right, I'm going to do a demo of this. Scott, what issues do we have? Right, exactly. So, Scott, I want to get from right here to on the other side of that sign in 4 seconds. What issues do we have?
You're too old.
He's right. And all the time, I think of questions as tools, right? And when I find a really good one in a particular place, I put that in my tool belt. And I use that tool all the time. Issues often are not knowing that you're asking about getting to a place. So I have also experienced this in many times. Oh my gosh. The issues list is like 30 things long. And I'm like, these are all the same thing. This is just somebody complaining about another person. The question is that I have deployed with some success, to some success, is what is the issue preventing us from getting to that thing? That is an actual issue that we can dig into. Not just what are the issues we're experiencing, but specifically, I want to go right here, our quarterly rock or goal or whatever. What is going to not let us get that done? Say those things. It becomes a way shorter list. And that's all built on top of everything that Heidi and Chris also said.
The other thing I would say is issues aren't always bad. Issues are good things. They're opportunities. They're things that are happening positively in the business. So let's not forget that issues are good too. So let's remember the good things happening in the business too, and let's celebrate those. We're running so fast, you guys, and we're building businesses. We also need to pause and celebrate the amazing accomplishments that we're doing in our teams and all the good things happening. So let's not forget to do that.
That sounds like a whole nother Spark event, is how to celebrate those moments and build culture within, because I think oftentimes we don't do that. So let me do this. So I don't know if the panelists will be sticking around a little bit afterwards, but I think that the C9 community is really willing to connect with each other. I've never been part of a community that is so willing to do that. So panelists, if you're around, come up, say hi, shake their hand, say hi to me, and connect with the other fellow members. And a couple things. Heidi brought a couple books, Rocket Fuel and Traction. So if you're like, you know what, this is now the time to read that. I know I looked out there that the Pinnacle also brought a whole bunch of books out in the front there. So now is the time. You can get your hands on these books, and there's a lot of business coaches, consultants, implementers in the room, but there's also a lot of people that have experienced it from, the first in command to kind of the CEO. So we're a community. Let's build something bigger. And I think I'm just going to have Aaron close us down. Where are you, Aaron? There you are. Yeah, and maybe let's give a shout out to the panelists, please. Yeah.
So I want to thank all of our panelists. Thank you for stepping up, and I can be persuasive, like I call it respectfully aggressive, but all of you responded well. And then thank you to Brian for not only moderating this, but also being an event partner. It means the world. Again, we've got the room here until 2, so if you want to eat, if you didn't have enough to eat, go for it. Panelists, you need to eat, I need to eat, so do that. If you see somebody with a community supporter badge, make sure and say thank you again. There's a table out there, like Brian said, Pinnacle brought some books. Heidi's got a couple books here, so go ahead and grab some of that. I also want to make sure and thank our event supporters as well. Look at that. Look at this. Isn't that nuts? Did you guys even, like, yeah. So that's a gift that my brain can't figure that out. And then Nung, very good down back there, so much. I don't know what we're going to do with these. We're going to obviously amplify the hell out of them. Yeah. But the physical things, are they going to my basement? Okay, so those are going to my basement. And then I also want to make sure and thank Pinnacle for being here. Thank you very much for supporting this event. Accountnuity as well. Thank you so much for supporting this event. Who am I missing? Yeah. Hold on. Oh yeah, EOS. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. And then did everyone park in that lot there? Yep. Okay, so if you paid for parking, thank you. This is just going to go right back into Coalition9. If you didn't pay for parking, don't pay for parking. So it is complimentary. We worked it out with the city. So you're all good there. Thank you for making the 3-block walk here. Thank you so much. You are going to get a survey here as we wrap up this day. Make sure and give a little bit of feedback on the space, on the food, on the experience as a whole. That's a big part of how we continue to evolve these events. So give us a little bit of feedback on that. And then last but certainly not least, I want to thank our events team, Emily and Brenda. Give them a huge round of applause, right? The Abyssinia team crushed it. They partnered with our team so well. What you guys saw, I mean, you walked into the space and it was absolutely beautiful. It was like that when we walked in. It is insane with the experience that we had here. So if you are thinking about hosting an event, I would implore you to talk to Abe and have bring some people down to this part of the city. We need to revitalize this community as well, and I think you all are going to be a big part of that. So thank you very much, and I'll see you at the next event.